Day 70, somewhere in the South Atlantic. The raft is 8 feet square. It was built to keep a person alive for a few days, long enough for a passing ship to find them. It was not built for this. Poon Lim has been on it for more than 2 months. He knows this because he has been keeping count, scratching marks into the wood with the edge of a tin lid. Each mark is a day he has not died. He counts them the way a man counts his savings, not with pleasure, but with the grim satisfaction of arithmetic that still adds up. The water supply is low again. The biscuits ran out weeks ago. What he has now, he made himself. A fishing line assembled from rope pulled apart, strand by strand. A hook bent from a spring he extracted from the inside of a flashlight. A knife shaped from the edge of a food tin. He caught a fish this morning. He ate it raw, the way he has eaten everything raw for the past month, because there is nothing on this raft to make fire with. He does not know where he is. The Atlantic is 3,000 miles wide at its narrowest point, and he has no navigational instruments. No radio, no way to signal a specific location. He knows only the direction of the sun in the morning, and the position of certain stars at night. He knows the current is moving him, slowly, in some direction. He knows that somewhere, he cannot say, where is land. He is 24 years old. He is from a small island in southern China. He signed on to the SS Ben Lomond as a second steward, responsible for the dining room service and the comfort of the officers. Nothing in that job description prepared him for what he is doing now. But here is the thing about Poon Lim that the record books don't fully capture. He is not surviving by accident. He is surviving by design. Every decision he has made since the ship went down has been deliberate, methodical, and correct. And he is not finished yet. This is the full story of 133 days alone on the South Atlantic, the longest solo ocean survival ever recorded, a record that has never been broken. To understand how Poon Lim survived what no one before or since has survived, you need to understand where he came from and what kind of person the ocean was dealing with. He was born in 1918 on Hainan Island, in what was then southern China, the 6th of 7 children in a fishing family. The sea was not an abstraction to him. It was the source of his family's livelihood, and, at times, the cause of its grief. He grew up understanding water, its moods, its weight, its indifference. He was not afraid of it. He had been taught, from childhood, that the sea was a place where careful people worked, and careless people died. At 17, he left Hainan and made his way to Hong Kong, then eventually to England, where he found work in the merchant navy. The British Merchant Marine, in the late 1930s, employed sailors from across the world, and Poon Lim was one of thousands of Chinese seamen who crewed British cargo ships throughout the Second World War, a contribution largely unacknowledged in official histories, but essential to keeping supply lines open across the Atlantic and beyond. By 1942, he was 24 years old and working as a second steward aboard the SS Ben Lomond, a British merchant vessel. His duties were domestic, serving meals, maintaining the officers' quarters, ensuring the small comforts of shipboard life were attended to. It was skilled work, but it was not survival work. He was not a navigator. He was not a military man. He had no formal training in what to do if a ship went down. What he had, instead, was something harder to teach, a temperament built for adversity. People who knew him described a man who was quiet, precise, and difficult to rattle. Not fearless, that would be the wrong word, but controlled. A man who, when confronted with a problem, looked at it steadily and began thinking about what tools he had. He also had, though he didn't know it yet, an extraordinary physical constitution. He was lean, fit, accustomed to physical labor. His body would prove capable of enduring deprivation that would have killed men who were larger, or softer, or less accustomed to discomfort. But in November 1942, all of that was untested. He was a steward on a cargo ship crossing the South Atlantic. He had a bunk, 3 meals a day, and a return ticket to England. Then the torpedoes came. November 1942. The Battle of the Atlantic is at its worst. German U-boats have been operating in the South Atlantic since early in the war, and 1942 is their most devastating year. Allied shipping losses in the Atlantic that year reached nearly 8 million tons. Ships carrying food, fuel, weapons, and the men needed to fight a global war. The U-boat campaign is not a distant threat. It is a daily reality for every sailor who crosses the ocean in either direction. The SS Ben Lomond is a British cargo ship, approximately 6,600 tons, carrying a mixed cargo and a crew of 55 men. She departs Cape Town, South Africa, on November 23, 1942, bound for Paramaribo in Suriname, a transatlantic crossing of roughly 4,000 miles. The route takes her through waters that the Royal Navy knows are active with German submarines, but there is no convoy available for this sailing. The Ben Lomond crosses alone. The Merchant Navy in 1942 operates under the constant, low-level knowledge that the ship you are on may not complete its voyage. Sailors learn to live with this, the way soldiers learn to live with the possibility of combat, by not thinking about it constantly, by focusing on the immediate work of the day, by trusting that the odds, while not good, are not impossible. For Chinese sailors, like Poon Lim, there is an additional layer to this calculation. The British Merchant Navy in wartime employs thousands of men from across the empire and beyond. Chinese, Indian, West African, Caribbean men who sail the same dangerous routes, face the same U-boats, and die in the same cold water as their British counterparts. But who will receive far less official recognition for doing so? Poon Lim knows this. It is simply the world he works in. He does not resent it, at least not in any way that interferes with his work. He serves the meals, he maintains the quarters. He is good at his job. He is, also, without knowing it, 11 days away from the moment that will define the rest of his life. The ship carries lifeboats and survival rafts, as required by maritime law. Each raft is stocked with basic emergency supplies: biscuits packed in tins, water jugs, flares, a flashlight, rope, a canvas life vest. The supplies are calculated to last a small group of survivors for a few days, at most enough time, in theory, for a rescue ship to reach them. They are not calculated for one man alone. They are not calculated for months. No one who designed these rafts imagined they would need to be. No one on the Ben Lomond is thinking about the raft on the morning of November 23rd. It is a clear day. The sea is manageable. They are 11 days out of Cape Town. Then, at approximately 11:30 in the morning, U-172 finds them. The first torpedo hits the engine room. The second hits the cargo hold. The Ben Lomond, struck twice in rapid succession, begins to go down immediately. She will be fully submerged within 2 minutes. 2 minutes is not long. It is barely enough time to react, let alone to think. November 23, 1942. Approximately 11:30 a.m. The first explosion throws Poon Lim off his feet. The second confirms what the first suggested. This is not a collision. Not a mechanical failure. Not something that can be managed. The ship is sinking. He knows this with the certainty of a man who has spent years at sea. The sound is wrong. The angle of the deck is wrong. And the speed of everything is wrong. He does not freeze. He moves immediately toward the ship's side, grabbing a life vest on the way. Around him, the chaos of a sinking ship in wartime, men shouting, equipment sliding, the groan of a hull under stress that it was never designed to absorb. The 2 minutes it takes the Ben Lomond to sink are 2 minutes of noise and movement, and the terrible acceleration of disaster. Poon Lim reaches the railing and goes into the water. The South Atlantic in November is cold but survivable. He swims hard, away from the ship, knowing that a sinking vessel creates suction that can pull swimmers under with it. He is a strong swimmer. His childhood on Hainan saw to that, and he clears the danger zone. Behind him, the Ben Lomond disappears beneath the surface, taking most of her crew with her. Of the 55 men aboard, only 11 will survive the initial sinking. Poon Lim will be the only one to reach rescue. He treads water and looks around him. Scattered across the surface of the Atlantic, debris, fuel slicks, pieces of the ship, and, approximately 80 meters away, a wooden survival raft, the kind designed to float free when a ship sinks, orange-painted, roughly 8 feet by 8 feet. Fitted with a small canopy on one side, empty. He swims to it and pulls himself aboard. For a long moment, he simply breathes. His body is reporting damage from the shock of the explosion and the cold of the water. But nothing is broken, nothing is bleeding. He is intact. He is on a raft. He is alive. The silence after the sinking is enormous. 2 minutes ago, there was a ship. There were 54 other people. There was noise, engines, voices, the creak of a working vessel crossing the ocean. Now there is only the sound of water against the raft's hull and the distant, indifferent wind. The transition from one world to the other happens so fast that his mind is still trying to close the gap. He does not allow it to stay there. He recognizes, with the instinct of someone who grew up reading weather and water, that the worst thing he can do right now is sit with the full weight of what has just happened. There will be time for that later. Or there won't be. Either way, it is not useful now. He looks around the raft surface and begins to think. He takes stock of what the raft carries. 40 liters of water in sealed jugs. Biscuits and hardtack in tins. A bag of sugar lumps. A handful of flares. A flashlight. Rope. A canvas cover. He lays each item out carefully, the way you lay out tools before beginning a job. This act, the physical arrangement of objects, the imposition of order on the chaos of the last 15 minutes, is itself a decision. It is the first step back from the edge. He is not waiting to be rescued. He is preparing to survive. He calculates quickly, if he is careful, if he rations everything from the start, not when he is desperate, but now. While his thinking is still clear, he has enough water for perhaps 2 months. The food is harder to predict. The biscuits will run out in weeks. He will need to find more food. Around him, the ocean stretches in every direction, empty and enormous. The debris from the Ben Lomond is already dispersing. The other survivors, if there are any, are not visible. He does not know where he is, precisely, except that he is in the South Atlantic, somewhere in the shipping lanes between Africa and South America. He lights one flare. He watches it arc into the sky and fade. Nothing answers. Day 1 begins. Day 1 through day 21. The first decision Poon Lim makes, and it is the decision that makes everything else possible, is to ration immediately. Not when the water runs low. Not when he is thirsty and frightened, and the discipline is hard. Now, on day 1, while the tins are full and his mind is clear, he divides his supplies. 8 biscuits per day. A carefully measured amount of water, twice daily. The sugar he reserves for emergencies he cannot yet imagine. This is not instinct. This is arithmetic. He has looked at what he has estimated how long he might be at sea, and calculated what it will take to be alive at the end of that time. He does not know when that end will come, so he plans for as long as possible. This is decision point 1, and it is the foundation on which everything else rests. The recognition, on the very first day, that discipline now is the only thing that creates options later. He spends the early days in a state of controlled vigilance. He watches the horizon for ships. He lights flares when he sees anything. Aircraft contrails in the distance. A shape that might be a vessel. Nothing comes. The Atlantic is vast, and the raft is very small. The water ration holds. But the biscuits are finite, and he knows it. By the end of the second week, he is already thinking past them. He examines the raft carefully, item by item, the way a craftsman examines raw materials. The rope can be unwound into individual strands, thin enough, if braided back together in the right way, to serve as a fishing line. The flashlight, which has lost its charge in the saltwater, contains a coiled spring inside the bulb housing. He extracts it carefully, works it between his fingers over several days, and bends it into a shape that approximates a hook. This process, disassembling objects to discover what they can become, is not something he learned from a manual. It is something he arrives at, through necessity, and a refusal to accept that the raft's inventory is fixed. Every object has a second use if you look at it long enough. The canvas cover can collect rain. The tin lids can become blades. The rope is not rope. It is 100 thinner ropes waiting to be separated. He moves through the raft's contents the way his father moved through a boat, looking not at what things are, but at what they can do. He has no bait. He uses a piece of canvas from the raft's cover, soaked in seawater, shredded into thin strips that flutter in the current. It takes days. The line disappears beneath the surface. Nothing pulls on it. He resets it. He waits. He resets it again. There is a particular quality to waiting when you have no alternative. It is not passive. Poon Lim fishes with the focused patience of a man who understands that the alternative to waiting is not action, it is starvation. He waits the way his father fished, without urgency, without frustration, with the steady attention of someone who trusts the process. Then, on approximately day 21, something pulls on the line. He hauls in his first fish. He eats it raw, skin, flesh, everything edible, and drinks what fluid he can press from the tissues. It is not pleasant. It is also the difference between living and dying. He has transformed the raft. It is no longer just a platform for waiting. It is a workstation. And Poon Lim is no longer just a survivor. He is a fisherman. Then the weather turned. Day 45 through day 90. The South Atlantic is not a gentle ocean. Storms move through it with regularity, pushing the raft in directions Poon Lim cannot control, soaking him with rain and spray, making fishing impossible for days at a time. He welcomes the rain. It supplements his water supply, which he collects in the canvas cover of the raft, wringing every drop into the jugs. But the cold and the exposure take their toll. His skin begins to blister from the combination of salt water, sun, and wind. His legs, which spend hours hanging over the side of the raft as he fishes, develop sores that are slow to heal in the wet environment. He has no medicine. He has no shade, except the small canopy on one side of the raft, which provides partial shelter from the midday sun, but does nothing for the wind at night. He establishes a routine. This is decision point 2. Not a single moment, but a sustained choice, made every day to impose structure on a situation that has no structure. He wakes at dawn and fishes until the sun is high. He rests during the worst of the midday heat under the canopy. He fishes again in the late afternoon. He maintains his water ration with mechanical precision. And every day, without fail, he exercises. He cannot afford to let his muscles atrophy. He has watched in his mind what happens to men who stop moving. He does push-ups on the raft's wooden platform. He swims around the raft on calm days, holding the rope, keeping his body in the water for short periods to cool down and maintain his cardiovascular condition. This routine, this insistence on treating his body as a machine that requires maintenance, will prove as important as the fishing. When he is finally rescued after 133 days, he will walk off the rescue boat unaided. His legs will be weak, but they will work. That will not be an accident. The biscuits run out somewhere around day 30. After that, everything he eats he catches. Fish, seabirds that land on the raft, drawn by the smell of fish scales. He learns their habits, which birds land, at what time of day, in what weather. He learns to be still. He catches them with his hands, then with a loop of rope arranged carefully on the raft's edge. He drinks their blood during dry spells when rain does not come and the water jugs run low. He does this without sentiment. It is a resource calculation. Blood contains fluid. He needs fluid. Around day 90, something happens that tests everything he has built. A ship appears on the horizon. A real ship, not a contrail, not a mirage. He can see the shape of it clearly in the morning light, close enough that he can make out the superstructure. He grabs his last flares and lights them, one after another, waving them above his head. The ship sees him. He can tell because it changes course slightly, comes closer. He is close enough to see men on the deck. Then it turns away, changes course again, disappears over the horizon. He will learn later that Allied vessels in 1942 were under strict orders to avoid stopping for survivors in waters where U-boats operated. A stopped ship was a dead ship. The sailors who saw him were following orders. They did not stop because stopping might have killed them all. He sits on the raft for a long time after the ship disappears. Then he baits his line and drops it over the side. Day 100 morning. Something shifts around day 100, and it is not physical. Physically, Poon Lim is deteriorating. He is thinner than he has ever been. His skin is a catalogue of damage. His legs ache. The salt sores are constant. What shifts is navigational. He has been tracking the sun and the stars with the attention of a man who has nothing else to do. And over the weeks and months, a pattern has emerged. The current is moving him. Not randomly. The Atlantic's great jowers are predictable, and the raft is caught in one of them. He is moving northwest, slowly, but consistently. He cannot calculate his exact position, but he understands, with growing conviction, that he is being carried toward the coast of South America. This is not hope, it is observation. There is a difference. He begins to ration what little remains of his resources with even greater care, calculating not how long he can last indefinitely, but how long it might take to reach a shipping lane, a coastal fishing zone, a place where people sail. He does not know the number, but the direction is consistent, the current is real. He also begins to think about his physical condition in a new way. Rescue, when it comes, may require him to do something, to wave, to shout, to swim a short distance. He needs his body to be capable of that. He increases his daily exercise, despite the pain, because he understands that the moment of rescue will not wait for him to be ready. On day 120, he sees birds, land birds, not seabirds. They are flying in a direction. Where birds fly at dusk, land is somewhere behind them. He notes the direction. He cannot change where the current takes him, but the birds confirm what the current has been suggesting. He is close. On day 130, the color of the water changes. He has seen this before. In his years at sea, the particular green-gray of coastal shallows replacing the deep blue of open ocean. He is near a coast. He does not sleep much in those final days. He stays at the edge of the raft, watching. Day 133, April 5, 1943. 3. Brazilian fishermen in a small boat are working the coastal waters near the mouth of the Amazon River when they see something unusual. An orange shape drifting in the current, low in the water, with a figure seated on it. They approach carefully. What they find is a young Chinese man, severely sunburned, his clothes reduced to rags, seated on a wooden raft with the calm self-possession of someone who has been waiting and who is not surprised to be found. He is not delirious. He is not incoherent. He is thin and damaged, but he is present. He speaks to them not in Portuguese, which he doesn't speak, and not in a language they know, but his meaning is clear enough. He accepts water. He accepts food. He does not grab or panic or weep. They take him to Belém, the Brazilian port city at the mouth of the Amazon. The journey upriver takes several hours. He sits in the fishing boat and watches the bank pass trees, then scattered buildings, then the outline of a city, the first buildings he has seen in 4.5 months. He does not describe what he feels. He does not need to. In Belém, he is taken to a hospital. The staff who receive him speak Portuguese. He speaks Cantonese and some English. Communication is limited, but the situation is legible. A man has arrived from the sea in a condition that speaks for itself. They feed him. They treat his wounds. They give him a bed with sheets. He sleeps for a long time. From Belém, he is transferred to the care of British authorities and eventually transported to a hospital in Britain. The journey takes weeks. He is recovering the entire time, eating, resting, watching his body slowly return to something that functions normally. The weight comes back slowly. The sores close. The legs strengthen. The medical assessment of Poon Lim upon rescue is one of the most remarkable documents in the history of survival medicine. He is malnourished, yes. He has lost significant weight. His skin has suffered extensive sun and salt damage. He has vitamin deficiencies consistent with months without varied nutrition. But he can walk. His cardiovascular system is functional. His mental faculties are fully intact. He is, by any reasonable measure, not the man anyone expected to find after 133 days on an 8-foot raft in the open Atlantic. He spends 4 weeks in hospital. He gains weight. He recovers. When he is well enough to be interviewed by the British Royal Navy, he gives a precise, detailed account of everything he did. The fishing techniques, the water management, the exercise routine, the daily schedule. Naval officers take notes. Some of what he describes is later incorporated into survival training for Allied sailors. His methods are not dramatic. They are methodical. They work. The record he set on April 5, 1943, 133 consecutive days alone on a raft at sea, has never been broken. In the 80 years since, no shipwreck survivor, no solo sailor adrift after a disaster. No one in any documented case has survived longer, alone, on the open ocean. In the years following his rescue, Poon Lim received recognition that was both deserved and, by the standards of the time, remarkable. Lord Louis Mountbatten, the Supreme Allied Commander in Southeast Asia, personally recommended him for the British Empire Medal, one of the highest honours available to a civilian. He received it in 1943. The citation noted his extraordinary endurance and the resourcefulness of his survival methods. The King of England, George VI, reviewed his case. The Royal Navy incorporated Poon Lim's survival techniques into training manuals, distributed to merchant sailors. His fishing method, improvising hooks from salvaged materials, and his water collection system were taught as standard practice. In a war where thousands of men ended up in the water, his methods may have saved lives beyond his own. After the war, Poon Lim tried to emigrate to the United States, but was initially denied entry under immigration laws that restricted Chinese nationals. He eventually emigrated in the 1950s, became a U.S. citizen, and lived in Brooklyn, New York, where he worked as a merchant mariner until his retirement. He died in 1991 at the age of 72. He gave few interviews. He was not a man drawn to attention. When asked about the 133 days, he tended to describe them practically. What he did, what tools he used, what he ate. He did not dramatize. He did not minimize. He answered the questions asked and did not volunteer elaborations. There is a photograph taken shortly after his rescue. He is standing with British naval officers, dressed in clothing borrowed for the occasion. He is thin, but upright. He is not smiling, not from sadness, but from the particular composure of a man who has just survived something immense, and is not yet sure what to make of it. He looks like someone who has been through a great deal and is still thinking about it. He outlived the record. He outlived the war. He outlived most of the men who sailed those waters. Lesson 1. Practical ration. From the first hour, not the last. Poon Lim began rationing his food and water on day 1, when his supplies were still full and his mind was still clear. This is the opposite of how most people manage scarcity. We tend to assume things will improve, and we ration only when forced to. His calculation was different. Assume the worst timeline, plan for it from the start, and let the plan run. Every day he had food and water was the result of decisions made on day 1, not day 60. The time to prepare for a crisis is before the crisis requires it. Lesson 2. Psychological routine is not escape. It is survival. For 133 days, Poon Lim woke at the same time, fished at the same hours, exercised at the same intervals, and rationed at the same measurements. This routine was not comfort. The raft was never comfortable. It was structure imposed on a situation that had no natural structure. Without it, time becomes formless, and formless time destroys the mind. He turned an 8-foot wooden platform in the middle of the Atlantic into a workplace with a schedule. That structure kept him sane. Lesson 3. Human ingenuity is a form of hope. When Poon Lim fashioned a fishhook from a flashlight spring, he wasn't just solving a practical problem. He was doing something more fundamental. He was asserting that the situation was not final, that there were still resources he hadn't used, still tools he hadn't made, still options he hadn't exhausted. Every improvised solution, the hook, the knife, the water collection system, was an act of refusal. A refusal to accept that what he started with was all he would ever have. That kind of ingenuity is not a talent, it is a decision. A decision to keep looking for what hasn't been found yet. The record Poon Lim set in 1943 is one that the world has had 80 years to break. No one has. That fact alone tells you something about what he did out there, not just about the body, but about the mind that kept the body going. If this story stayed with you, the comments are open. This channel exists to reconstruct these timelines as accurately and respectfully as possible. Subscribe and turn on notifications if you want to follow the next survival reconstruction.